And we are live. Welcome back, ladies and gentlemen. I am one of your co-hosts, Blake Ruffino. Alongside me is my counterpart, Joe DeLeone. Good evening, good sir. You're muted.
I said happy St. Patrick's Day. Where the heck is your green on? You're not wearing anything green.
So listen, I have seen all weekend on social media that people are making fun of Italians for celebrating St. Patty's Day. So to all you Irish,
where?
IB.
Where is this?
Italian dick, bitch.
So what am I supposed to do? I'm Irish and Italian. So am I supposed to
You're
just
a traitor.
What does that mean? That doesn't mean anything.
Actually, to be honest with you, you're a double traitor, to be honest.
How am I a double traitor?
Are you half Irish? You're a Notre Dame fan.
Yeah, exactly. No. Okay, first of all, I don't believe any of this. I don't believe any of this whole Irish, Italian beef thing. I've never seen or heard of that, and you're just making that up. But I do feel disrespected that you're not wearing green today. You should be wearing some green.
Who says I'm not?
I'm not going to respond to that. Let's just get into
better not.
Oh, Jesus Christ.
Who says I'm not wearing green shorts?
Yeah, that's definitely what you meant. That's definitely what you were getting at.
Ironically, I didn't even realize it was St. Patty's Day, to be honest with you.
It's weird when it's on a Sunday. This is one of the first times I haven't really celebrated it. I didn't do anything this weekend. I usually am one of the people that, being an Irishman, that enjoys celebrating it. Did not get after it or anything this year, but yeah, it does feel weird when it's on a Sunday.
Yeah, I remember I was in a St. Patty's Day parade in New Orleans about 6 or 7 years ago before me and my wife were together, and it was very fun.
I can only imagine.
We celebrated with people from New York and Chicago, and I must tell you, those people are just as crazy as people from New York. I got to admit.
Oh, yes. Yeah, that's an understatement.
Yes, indeed. All right. We got lots and lots to discuss here, Joe, on tonight's show. With March Madness, the selection was just got over with. We're going to do a little bit of our own, maybe some Cinderella teams, a new expanded playoff we'll touch on here tonight. Also, Joe, we haven't even gotten into the 12-team playoff, and here we are. We are already expanding the 12-team playoff. What I will tell you, okay, as well in this, remember on Wednesday, I said that I thought that this would hurt Notre Dame more than anybody. Ross Dellinger of Yahoo Sports reporting, Joe, that they will get less than 1% of any revenue from playoffs. This is going to force them to join a conference.
I think eventually. I don't think it's going to be within the next couple of years, but I do understand what you're saying because
Notre Dame less than 1% of any playoff revenue money. That is abysmal.
They're slotted to make $12 million, which is $10 million less than the Big Ten and the SEC, which I believe is $22 million per school that they'll be racking in. So yeah, I mean, I hate one of the few instances where I hate to admit that I was a little bit wrong here. They are probably going to get cornered into doing it. And I'm sure that they're going to wait until there's a little bit more clarity on what the revenue splits are going to be once the 14-team thing comes to fruition. It doesn't matter.
If they make the playoffs the next 3 years or after 2026. I mean, if they make the playoffs the first 3 years after that, Joe, there's no way that they can't not be in a conference because you're leaving $30 to $40 million on the table. That's just – and Joe, that's
it's stupid. It's unbelievably stupid.
Right. And to be honest with you, look, I understand Notre Dame's independence. Okay. And we'll talk about this a little bit. I don't mind their independence. And I quite honestly don't mind if they don't want to enter a conference. Okay. Like I completely cool with it. At the same time, if you don't make that move, you're making a very bad one.
And it's all in line with what I've talked about a lot with Jack Swarbrick, who is the former athletic director, who was one of the architects of the expanded college football playoff, the 12-team playoff that we're going to get to see for the first time this year. The short-sightedness of a lot of his decision-making is going to impact Notre Dame for possibly the next 5 years. So, yeah, I hate to admit it. Notre Dame fans, we kind of have to come to grips here with it's not really an advantage anymore. It used to be an advantage because we were one of the biggest entities in terms of just branding and being able to sell merchandise because we were one of the most recognizable nationwide brands in college football. But the problem is because of that fear of wanting to have to split any revenue with a conference and driving most of their viewership, now it's flipped on them. Now they are the ones who are getting the short end of the stick. And in order for them to maximize it, they're certainly going to want to have to reconsider that.
Yeah, they're going to need to reconsider it. And look, if they don't make the move, good on them. But I just think it would be a little bit foolish. We'll talk about the 14-team playoff that was officially announced on, what was it, Joe, Friday? Thursday?
Well, it's not officially announced.
It's official.
So I've been trying to, when I was doing my notes today, I've been trying to find, all I have seen is that they've agreed to a new playoff deal, but there is not a solidified 14-team deal. Okay.
It's official.
Okay.
Okay.
Okay. Let's maybe not go that far to say that it's completely official, but it's, like you're saying, it's probably going to eventually be officialized.
If they're agreeing to revenue share, they're going to 14. I mean, why have that meeting? I mean, what are we discussing here?
Good point.
All right. Also, we're going to talk about Fran Brown's first-year expectations at Syracuse. Joe, I know you're really high on Fran Brown in year one.
Well, more specifically, I'm very high on Syracuse in 2024 because they have a stupidly easy schedule. And if Fran Brown is as good as we've all talked them up to be, they could be a pretty good team. Not saying a playoff team, but like they could be an 8-win team, which would be a total turnaround from how they were in 2023.
I'm going to change your vernacular on one word.
Okay.
That y'all have made him out to be. Because don't say we, because Blake ain't ever said nothing.
Okay.
What Blake has said, as I'm speaking myself.
Don't try hopping on the train after it's all, it's already departed from the station.
I'm not hopping on the train. What I'm saying is he's never coached a game as a head coach, and people look at some of the pieces that they brought in. Yeah. I like some of the pieces. I like the defensive coordinator that he hired. Obviously, him being at A&M. I even like that they brought in Kyle McCord. I think Kyle McCord is going to be better for them. But all I'm saying is we do this every year. Okay. Oh, they're going to be better. We've never seen him coach a game as a head coach. But I do think personally, now I'm going to contradict myself. Personally, I do think he's going to be good. Mm-hmm. However, can we pump the brakes just a little bit? If they go 6-6, it's not the end of the world.
No, as anyone who's watched this show long enough knows that I'm always on the wide end of the spectrum. I'm either all in or I'm completely out. But all I'm saying is that if Fran Brown turns this Syracuse team into a scrappy, competitive bunch, don't try to get on the bandwagon after it's already been rolling, man. That's all I'm saying. That's all I'm saying.
I will hop on any bandwagon I want to in any given moment. I'm not a bandwagon fan. Like a lot of people in Louisiana right now, they're hopping on McNeese State because they made the NCAA tournament.
Like they're going to win any games.
They could beat Gonzaga. They can beat Gonzaga.
Go to the break. I'm kidding a little bit. I know.
You realize this. If McNeese State beats Gonzaga, I'm going to clip this and post it.
Go ahead. I say enough dumb shit on this show that people it is a monthly occurrence now. Go ahead. Clip
a monthly occurrence. Joe, can I be honest with you?
Uh-huh.
All right. I had my best friend in this world, not really a sports guy. He likes sports, not really a sports guy. He doesn't keep up with it like you and I do. Okay? Legitimately texted me when you went viral last week about Sellers in South Carolina saying, I've never seen a man get dragged through the mud worse than Joe DeLeone is right now.
Okay, it wasn't that bad. You're acting like it was
pretty bad. They were making sketch art of you. And then I got brought into it, even though they agree with everything I said.
That sketch art it's a meme format, so it's not like it's some sort of unique. I mean, I did get killed, but it was justified. I said it. It was justified. It was a dickhead. It was a dickhead comment that I made. I try not to be critical of athletes. I took it a step too far, and I've admitted that I was wrong for doing it. So, I understand why it happened.
What was worse, this year with South Carolina or the Georgia fans who hopped all over you last January?
The Georgia fans were, because one, there's a lot more of them. They're a lot more of a Southern presence in multiple states, so it's much bigger. And their comments towards me were just from like a totally benign statement. Like me getting attacked by the 100 South Carolina fans that got mad at me. That was, again, it was justified because I said something that wasn't really appropriate and it was a little bit unprofessional. Again, I apologize for it. But the other thing was just because they didn't like what I had to say. So it was absolutely the Georgia one. Miami was close to the Georgia one, though. I think that was kind of similar.
Oh, God. Dude, Miami. But see, the thing about Miami, man, when you talked about Tyler Van Dyke, the problem with the Miami thing was they ridiculed you for 2 weeks. And then when Tyler Van Dyke absolutely
was bad, they disappeared.
They disappeared, and you started quote tweeting, and they didn't defend him. They didn't defend him anymore. So that was the interesting thing there. Hot take. I do think he's going to be a lot better at Wisconsin. I do think a change of scenery helps him out.
I just question what better mean. Yeah, I mean, is he going to have less on his shoulders because they're not going to run an offense that's going to ask him to do too much? Yeah, totally.
If he cuts his interceptions in half, if you take,
that's asking a lot, brother. That's asking a lot.
But we've seen quarterback Joe. Ironically, you need to look at this. Did you know that almost every transfer quarterback that starts more than 6 games the next year at a new program, their turnovers historically cut by at least a third, sometimes in half?
I'm sure that there's truth to that. And
no, it's not truth. We saw with Jane Daniels. Okay, we saw with Caleb Williams. Okay, Caleb Williams had more, like 15 total turnovers from Oklahoma.
Wait, but that was him going from being a true freshman to a Heisman Trophy winner. Like that, like we knew that he was gifted, and he was just like he was coming out of early growing pit. But I understand what you're saying. I think that it's easy to look at all of these other guys like Bo Nix and Dylan Gabriel.
Bo Nix. For the love of God, Bo Nix.
I think that it's easy to look at these guys and say, wow, look, this new opportunity helped them get better. And it makes sense because you literally have coaches and offensive coordinators that are perusing the transfer portal and looking for guys that are specific to the scheme that they're trying to run. It enables them to be very, very specific in their recruiting. But I don't know, man. I don't like his instincts. He's like one of those few guys where I just don't like the –
you just don't like quarterbacks. I will tell you, there's no wider word that you've ever said on the show more than perusing.
I have said, okay, all right. Well, God forbid I try to add a little bit of intellect to this program. You know, I can't come on here and make fun of people for wearing glasses, which the situational irony of that went over everybody's head. So apparently I need to sound dumber. So apparently that needs to, I need to dumb things down.
You could be like Skip Bayless and tweet out all in, my ass.
I almost quote tweeted and said that's something I probably would have I would have tweeted.
Very much so. All right. Let's get rolling. Everybody do us a favor by hitting the like and share to all those social media groups, share to all of those social media pages. You're watching us, listening to us on YouTube. Like, subscribe, notification bell. If you're on caffeine, don't forget to follow there as well. And if you're if you're listening to us on the audio podcast, rate, review, and subscribe. Joe, let's talk about our good friends over at betonline.ag. Everyone's hitting the share during the break. We're back next. We got lots to discuss. Talk to you soon. BetOnline is the fastest and easiest way for you to wager on all of your favorite sports, contests, events with the first-to-market odds and lines. Find reviews for all the news for each league, including Major League Baseball, NFL, NBA, NHL, combat sports, college sports, esports, and even golf. BetOnline continues to be the top online resource for all of your sports information for live in-game betting, props, and futures. Head on over to BetOnline today and use your mobile device to join and make your first sports bet. Use our promo code BELIEVE50, that's BELIEVE50, BLEAV 50, to receive your 50% off welcome bonus on your first deposit. That's betonline.ag, betonline.ag. We're back. So I've been posting very funny photos of my father on sports captions.
It's a good bit.
Me and my brother have been laughing about it a lot. He does not know because he does not have a Twitter. If he were to find out, I think he'd be pissed. But
it's a great bit, by the way. It's a hilarious. Your dad makes the funniest faces, and as soon as you told me that was your dad, I'm all in on the bit. Keep doing it.
Me too. I'm going to continue to do it. I got to get. My brother's actually the one that started the FaceTime screen grabbing. Okay, so you got to be on your P's and Q's if you FaceTime a Ruffino. All right,
God.
so it was released last week. I know that it's not completely or technically final, but it's going this way. The college football playoff is expanding to 14 teams. I got to admit, it's a complete joke to me. I don't understand why every single week during the offseason, Joe, we've done the show for 2 years now, okay? Every single week during the offseason, you and I come out here and are happy-go-lucky. We want to talk about college football, yet the suits of this sport make a completely asinine situation. Joe, I went and made a list of this. Here are some things that college football fans didn't ask for. You ready? An expanded playoff to 12 teams, an expanded playoff to 14 teams, a running clock, a 2-minute warning. I'm going to say, you can tell me on this next one that, yeah, maybe they did, but radios and helmets. Okay, I don't think fans were really asking about that, but with the Michigan stuff, I'll digress. I even put it in there. But, Joe, we didn't ask for different portal windows. We didn't ask for different recruiting windows. I know that coaches did. We didn't ask that hotel rooms couldn't be decorated on official or unofficial visits. Joe, every single week we come in here and we have a discussion about something changing in college football that quite honestly is asinine. I understand the 2-minute warning, but last year you told me that the running clock that college football was going to have was to reduce the timing of the game, only for you to add 2 5-minute timeouts and a 2-minute warning. Now, when most people, okay, are telling the suits 12 teams cannot win a national title on any given year. We're going to talk about Cinderella teams. I don't believe that any of my Cinderella teams can win. But the bottom line is why the only reason that this continues to change. I know we're talking about revenue share and it's trying to get us in a certain direction of college sports. You can do all of that by not expanding to 14 teams, because I will tell you, Joe, there's not 6 on a given year that can win it, much less 14 that can. I just look at all this and say to myself, we're going to continue to have off seasons where we have asinine-ass moves. This is one of them, expanding to 14 teams.
Some might perceive this as a warning, but as you're talking,
what?
Well, let me get to what I was going to say. This is, as you're talking about, there's suits that are controlling these decisions. It's not like the NFL where we have a face and we know that the owners are the ones who are driving the decision making. We all perceive and guess who we think is leading the discussion in these changes. It's university presidents. It is executives at these broadcasting networks. There are a lot of hands in the pot, and I think that's why the direction is so erratic and inconsistent. But the warning I'm referring to, Blake, is just wait until private equity does find a way to have a hand in the future of college football. It has been discussed as being something that is influencing Florida State's decision-making. And I have to be fair here. I don't honestly know enough about this, and it has not been reported on enough to really be able to cover the scope of this. But all I'm saying, and why I said this could be perceived as a warning, is that if private equity, if these massive equity firms that want to find ways to turn college football into a more profitable business, it does well, but there's a lot more money to be made. How are they going to eventually influence it? I'm curious as to which school is going to be the first one to break that seal and decides to go all in and say, screw it, we're going to trust this alumni who works for this or owns this private equity firm, and he's going to change the direction of our program. And once that happens, the floodgates will be open, and every program is going to try and find their own sort of private funding to help their teams.
Here's the problem with that. Okay, I understand what you're saying. The problem is that most public universities and state universities are publicly state funded and federally funded. Can't be private equity.
Well, then how has I mean,
It's
Florida
also
State's
the
been
same
discussed as
argument.
being involved with them.
Well, it's also the same argument of a collective bargaining agreement, right? I talked to a legislature here in Louisiana last week, and I'll just give some cliff notes of our conversation. I asked him if a collective bargaining agreement could happen in college football, and he laughed at me. He legitimately laughed, mainly due to the fact that you have state and federal government that has to approve all of this. Title IX is still an issue. Joe, if you do a collective bargaining agreement, every university in the country violates Title IX.
Well, that's why I bring up that when we talk about this stuff, it's not getting changed anytime soon. It's just not, because it requires too much political intervention.
That was my point in reference to, the Tennessee stuff. Everybody said, well, it's got to be torn down before it gets better. I'm not going down that rabbit hole. I'm going to throw up if I got to talk about that again.
Yeah, we're not doing it.
My only point was, Joe, that what you just said in 5 words is exactly what I tried to mention 2 months or a month ago, okay? The point that I'm trying to make here with the expanded playoff, okay? I can't believe that this is my life, where it's something that nobody wants, but our job, me and your job, what we get paid to come out here and do every Sunday, Monday, and Wednesday is we got to talk about this stupid crap. Joe, please how does this make any sense? Please tell me how 14 teams makes any sense.
It doesn't. For entertainment, that's why. Because they want more. They want, and I don't know who they is. I have to reiterate that here. I don't know who they is, but they want more sellable, packageable, advertisable content. That's the world that we live in. A lot of these, we talk about the media entities that control a lot of this decision-making. They're hurting. A lot of these companies are hurting because they don't know how to pivot in the modern media world. There are so many people that are getting hired and fired left and right because they don't know how to manage TV. They don't know how to manage streaming. It is a cluster F. So for that reason, they know where the money's a guarantee, which is football games, college football games.
You know what's funny? I really think you just hit the nail on the head there. I think that the take that you just had might be the best take about college football that's ever been said.
Thank you. You flatter me.
Well, I'm not trying to flatter you. You got a girlfriend for that. But it's funny. I hadn't really thought about that until you just said that. I hadn't really thought about ESPN laying off who was on college? David Pollock.
Yeah.
For Pat McAfee. All these people that are getting fired for no reason. I do think it's interesting you bring up, well, ESPN's got to they got to make money somehow, because it's been widely reported that Disney might be selling ESPN to somebody.
I don't know the possibility of that happening, but the other part of this too.
The worldwide leader's not going anywhere.
Yeah.
The other part is too big to fail.
It has the potential to make too much money for Disney to bail on it. But the other part of this, not only do they not know how to properly determine the new direction of consumable linear media. I know that we're getting really in the weeds when we say shit like that. But on top of this, it's getting more and more expensive for them to own the rights for the MLB and the NBA. I mean, one of the things that's been what?
Cut the NBA.
But so what I'm trying to
women's college basketball beating LeBron James prime time, dude.
But this is why they keep reinvesting in college and trying to find new ways to invest in college, is because it's eventually getting too expensive. And it's like a very quietly known issue that these companies that pay for the rights for the NBA and the MLB are like, you guys are getting too expensive for us. We can't afford this. Like, if you really want to take it elsewhere, you can, but we can't make any money if you're going to charge us as much as you're expecting. But college football hasn't gotten to that spot yet.
Did you see the report that Fox was going to do a TV revenue share with Caitlin Clark of Iowa?
No, I didn't see that.
They were trying to do a TV revenue share with her, okay, to keep her in college or women's college basketball. Interesting
To
times.
stay next year, you're saying?
Yeah, for next year, because she announced she was going to the WNBA. You know why they're doing that, huh?
Yeah, about
Because
the
she's
ratings.
driving freaking ratings. You're right. That's all it's what it's about. Okay. It's about more money. And I hate it because, Joe, look, man, we've had discussions about other things about what we would talk or could talk about on this show. But the bottom line is we're a college football show. And I will never in my life love a sport more than I love college football. College baseball is really up there for me, I will admit. But it's just every single week we got a dumb decision. Now, let me ask you this.
Yeah.
Okay, let's get into a little bit more of the weeds. ESPN, the SEC and the Big Ten are going to get 58% of this thing. 58%. Joe, it's just, I know we mentioned this before, but now that it's coming to fruition here, it's just not looking good for the ACC. The Big 12 the Big 12 seems more confident than the ACC does.
Well, the Big 12, I think, is slotted to make a little
amount of money.
You're right. I think that there's
or lesser teams.
There's a little bit more of a contingency of programs that have active alumni bases and more aggressive alumni bases than the ACC do. So I do feel a little bit better about the Big 12. My biggest thing with this, though, and I've been saying this for a long time, and you've kind of pushed on me, and I'm bringing this back to we have to talk about Notre Dame when these conversations come up.
All right, I was going to wait to talk about Notre Dame, but we talked about this on Wednesday, so go ahead.
Yeah, I feel as though the massive gap in what the ACC would make and what the Big Ten would make is a pretty clear indicator that if Notre Dame does decide to join a conference, it would have to be the Big Ten. It wouldn't be worth
for sure.
It wouldn't be worth giving up all of their freedoms just for a little bit more money. It would be really silly for them to do that. So the way that I look at this, yes, Notre Dame absolutely in the next 5 to 10 years needs to make this decision and needs to join a conference, and they should only do it if they're joining the Big Ten. Regionally, it makes more sense. They've got more historic rivalries with Big Ten programs like Michigan, Michigan State, Purdue. There's a lot of teams that they used to play that were in the Big Ten that they used to have really big, important matchups with every single year. If they're joining a conference, it has to be the Big Ten, and they need to start making that move before they get boxed out.
We talked about this on Wednesday. I actually now agree with you because of the revenue share. Okay. But Notre Dame's got to make a move. Notre Dame is going to have to wind up making a move here into a conference. I know all of their fans are going to, I'm sure you're going to clip this, and I'm sure the Notre Dame fans are going to come up in here and say, what in the hell is Blake talking about? Joe, it's reported by Ross Dellinger of Yahoo Sports that if they make the playoffs, they're going to make 1% less or 1% or less going into a 14-team playoff. You're talking about, Joe, leaving anywhere from 10 to 15 to, I saw a max from Dellinger, $18 million a year if you do not join the conference. I got it. This is why I discussed this on Wednesday. By the biggest loser in all of this right now may be Notre Dame. You can't get a number 1 overall seed regardless of what you do in the regular season. Okay, you can't get an automatic bye. I understand because you don't have a conference. You're not winning a conference game. I understand all that. But the bottom line is, Joe, if there's going to be a upward tier, if they're going to lose $10 to $18 million a year, they don't have a choice. Joe, you're talking about almost half of your yearly TV revenue from NBC. With all of that being said, they're the biggest loser in all this if they don't join the conference. I think if there's ever been a time where it's been more inevitable for Notre Dame to join a conference, when Dellinger tweeted out on Friday, it's going to be 1% or less, I'm like, oh, shit. It doesn't matter anymore. They got to join now.
It's an enormous red flag. And look, Notre Dame fans, I have been one of those people for my entire life. And I know that I'm not super old. I'm in my early 20s. You're
in your mid-20s. Don't you say yes.
Sorry. I have fought tooth and nail with anybody that I've argued with. I've done it on Twitter. I did it when I was in high school. I did it when I was in college, saying that Notre Dame should not join a conference. And at the time, it made perfect sense. But I think that we've gotten to the point here, as you're talking about, it hasn't been more painted out and in front of our faces than it could be right now. We know exactly the handicap that we are being handed. So I need to stop saying that Notre Dame is being handed. Notre Dame is going to have
a play?
No, shut up.
I don't mind the whole we thing, by the way.
I think if you have some sort of a tie to a university, I think it's
you know what
fine.
your tie is?
What?
Your family's given well over $50,000, $100,000 to Notre Dame in their lifetimes.
I mean, I was literally baptized in the church there.
Okay.
So like I like to
say we.
I can claim, yeah, we is not a totally inappropriate thing to say for Notre Dame.
Say we.
My point is that Notre Dame needs to look at this situation and they need to realize that they're getting the short end of everything. They cannot just sit back and wait. And I know that they don't need to be desperately picking up the phone and calling everybody and saying like, hey, do you guys want us? Do you guys want us? They have the opportunity to be courted by any of these conferences, but they should make the move and talk to the Big Ten because they clearly have wanted them back when this expansion was occurring not too long ago.
Without question. So, look, Joe, we go to this 14-team playoff, okay, with the SEC and Big Ten with, I'm going to use a pun here, yoo-hoo in hand, okay, or because they run all of this now. Whatever Sankey, whatever Petiti says, it's their world. We're just living in it.
Yeah. Yeah.
I mean, it's going to be what it's going to be. And I got to tell you this. I think that Greg Sankey has been the best commissioner that arguably that we've seen in sports, college sports at least. I think personally, I'm going to say this and get crucified about it. He has been run over by big TV networks. He has been, quite honestly, he could have been the face and the voice that saved us from this. And I got to be real with you. He backed down and cowered down for more money because he could have said to ESPN, listen, we bent the knee on 12 teams. 14, now you're just getting stupid. Okay? At every step, Greg Sankey has been, I'm going to take the money and run. I don't know if 14 teams is beneficial for this sport because let me leave you with one thing. It dilutes the regular season. Now, everybody wants to argue with me about that, but it does. Joe, you can have 2 losses in the regular season, quite honestly, doesn't mean shit. Now, back in the day, if you lost two games in the regular season, your national championship odds were done.
Wait, I disagree with that part because, yes, it keeps teams alive if they suffer debilitating losses that would typically completely, even one loss in some cases would completely remove you from making.
I mean, remember when Ohio State got beat by Purdue and everybody's like, they shouldn't make the playoff?
Yeah.
Joe, if somebody goes to Notre Dame right now, week 1, God forbid they lose to A&M in week 1. It's not going to happen, but let's just say it does. It doesn't matter.
But, okay, but I think that the difference now, though, is that there's more teams that those final games of the season that it's going to matter. That they have to finish the season strong.
It won't matter to you as the fan is what I'm saying. Joe, it's going to be NFL light. You know what?
I disagree. Because this is the one singular reason why I have supported the 12-team playoff.
It's going to keep more teams in late. It doesn't keep the spirit or the passion of college athletics. I talked about this on Wednesday. Okay. You know what made college athletics? It's because week in, week out, day in, day out, you had to your team had to win every week. It doesn't matter anymore.
I don't think it's so horrible that more fan bases can be actively rooting and involved in their team's success because there is that hope because you lost 2 games. You lost 2 close games. You're a team like Missouri and you're thinking to yourselves, man, if we just get this last win this week, we're going to the playoff and we have a shot to compete for the playoff. I still firmly don't have an issue with that. I don't think there's anything wrong with that.
You know why? Don't take this the wrong way. Can I tell you why?
Why?
Because Notre Dame, your fan base or your team, isn't in a conference. So you please stay with this. Isn't a shot. Just stay with me. Okay. That Notre Dame Clemson game during the COVID meant much more to y'all than it did because you could go and play for the ACC championship. Now, okay, with every team that was around the country, okay, one loss in their conference damn near crucified them in a season. And don't you tell me, Notre Dame fans, that it didn't when y'all were going to play Clemson, you win, and you're going to go play for an ACC title. You know how I know? You know how I know?
How?
Because your coach wound up coming here a year later.
Okay.
Joe, are you really going to argue me on that point?
Okay, but you still need to win the important games on your schedule. Like
you're going to argue me on that point or not?
We need to be a little bit more specific in saying like, oh, you can lose 2 games. You can't lose.
You can lose 2 games.
Wait, you can't go and lose to like Vanderbilt if you're in the SEC and expect to make it into the playoff.
Because if you win 10 games, then
that stuff is going to get brought up. That I think that there's going to be a lot more complex arguments for teams getting in and not getting in. If you have a stupid loss and all of your only wins are over the bad teams in your conference, I don't think it's going to be a foregone conclusion that you just get thrown into the playoff.
If a Big Ten or SEC team has 10 wins and either one of them have a loss to Vandy, newsflash, bucko. Hold on.
I would freaking hope that doesn't happen.
They're getting in the playoff. You know why I know they're getting into the playoff? Because there's too many teams that you got to get in there.
Okay, but how many? The real reality of this is how many times have we been deprived of the opportunity to watch and lost close games? They lost close games that were good enough to play.
Hold on 1 second now. Hold on 1 second. You know how I also know that they're getting in there? You ready for it? Wait for it. They have automatic qualifiers.
They have one automatic qualifier.
No.
They have one automatic qualifier. We haven't gotten that far yet. There is only one automatic qualifier.
It doesn't give 2 fucking Rudy Poos if we've gotten there now or we're going there because guess what? Hold on. Guess what? They all approved and said that they were going to do automatic qualifiers. It's in the Ross Dellinger piece. So if a 10-2 SEC or Big Ten team,
they're not. I don't think it sounds like that. It's more likely to be the 5+9 for the expanded playoff. So I remove that for a second. Wait. For the quality of the product of the games that we're watching in the playoff, one could argue this past year it was disappointing that we didn't get to watch the Heisman Trophy winner be one of the people or one of the important pieces. Win. It's still entertaining to know that those teams that lost close games, LSU lost close games. They didn't get blown out. They didn't lose to.
They got blown out by Florida State.
I'm proud of you for admitting that in March. They didn't lose to Vanderbilt. They didn't lose to
have like 300 people in here like we do in the regular season. I would have never.
Yeah, so you can say whatever you want. They didn't lose to Vanderbilt. They didn't lose to anybody stupid. So they were good enough to probably go in and maybe win their first game.
LSU, if they should have been in over Missouri because they meet Missouri on the road.
And I think that improves the product.
It doesn't improve the product. It really doesn't. It doesn't for the reg. I hear all of you Rudy Poos out here telling me the regular season doesn't get diluted. The hell it doesn't.
It doesn't. I completely disagree.
As soon as they agreed on Friday about the automatic qualifiers, you could take a dump on the regular season. You get the 10 games in the regular season in one of those 2 conferences, you're in.
You're acting like you could lose 5 games and still find a way in. Like that's not the reality. I know, but the way that you're
Alabama going to Death Valley this year. Can I just tell you the truth?
The way that you're painting 2 losses is
hold on. Alabama going to and Kalen DeBoer in year 1 going to Death Valley does not have the same oomph that it ever has, mainly due to Saban being out. I'll give you that. It doesn't have that oomph because if Bama comes in here and gets their elephant cheeks clapped, it doesn't matter because they win 10 wins in the regular season. They can get into the playoff. It does not matter anymore.
This conversation is very ironic for the segment that we're about to do, by the way, because we're about to talk about teams that could go on runs if they snuck in with 3 losses.
Oh, God, it's not going to happen. All right, let's talk about this. So, Joe, let's do this. Let's talk about our good friends, though, over at Home Field Apparel. Let's get back. After the commercial, we'll talk about our Cinderella teams and Fran Brown year 1. Everybody, hit the like and share. Stay with us.
Ruffino and Joe Show is brought to you by Home Field Apparel, which is the best, without a doubt, premium collegiate apparel brand that is out there. They have over 150 different colleges that you can choose from, whether you're an Illinois fan or a Rutgers fan, maybe you're an LSU fan like Blake, or maybe you're an Alabama fan. Whatever it is, even Idaho, they have so many different designs for so many different football programs that I can guarantee you're going to find some great stuff to help root for your favorite team. I've already gotten my Notre Dame stuff. Blake has his LSU stuff. Make sure you head on over to homefieldapparel.com to check out your team's collection of clothing apparel that they have on the website. And when you do so, when you check out, make sure you use promo code RuffinoJoe to get 15% off your order. That is RUFFINO, Ruffino Joe. Head on over to homefieldapparel.com and get your college gear today.
So, Joe, one thing that we wanted to talk about here tonight was Cinderella teams in college football this upcoming year. I will give you the ball first. Who do you think, who would be a couple, or just you can start off with one, it doesn't matter, would be your Cinderella teams going into 2024?
So to quickly explain this premise,
yes,
the idea is we all watch March Madness. We all enjoy March Madness. And there's always that one team that's a 5 seed or lower, that maybe even a 10 seed that goes on a long run. They maybe make it to the Elite 8 or even the Final 4. The premise here is that we've got an expanded playoff in 2024. If there was a team that snuck their way in and that just barely made it in, an 8 through 12 seed that could go on to win a couple of games and maybe reach the semifinal, who would that be? My first obvious one, actually I wouldn't say obvious, but like less controversial, is Missouri. I understand that Missouri is losing Chris Abrams-Drain, Ennis Rakestraw. They're losing Tyron Hopper, Demarcus Robinson. They're losing a couple of guys on their defense, but they still geared up. And their defense coordinator, Blake Baker. I still think that there is talent on that defense, not to mention the fact that they added Toriano Pride Jr., Darius Smith, Chris McCullen through the portal. Those are some nice adds. I just pay really close attention to the fact that I don't think that their defense will take a massive drop-off, and that their offense, led by Luther Burden, led by Brady Cook, that they're going to be really hard to keep up with. I really believe, I truly, truly believe that Burden is going to be one of the best receivers, if not the Biletnikoff winner at the end of the season, because of how much of a spark plug that he is. So if there's that one team that pulls off an upset in the first round because of like a crazy long touchdown because Burden breaks a tackle, I think it could be Missouri.
You know that put Brady Cook in the Heisman Trophy conversation.
It would not put Brady Cook in the Heisman Trophy conversation.
What do you
But wait.
Trophy conversation? Because I say the top 10 players are in conversations at any given moment.
Okay, sure. Well, can I at least say, and I've said on this program before, just because I don't like a team or certain players one year doesn't mean that I don't like them the next year.
You didn't like Brady Cook last week. You said he was ass a week ago.
No. You were putting words in my. You're putting words in my mouth. You're putting words in my mouth. Find where I say Brady Cook is ass. Those that did not come out of my mouth this offseason.
A week ago, a week ago today.
I have propped up how I think that his quality of his floor, he's got a high floor, not a high ceiling, a high floor as a quarterback, and he's perfect for being a good college quarterback. I don't think he's going to win the Heisman.
I don't think he is either. I actually agree with you on Missouri. However, when you do take a deeper dive and look at them, they're losing their leading tacklers, okay? They might have an issue at safety, okay? Who knows? We'll see. I do agree with your thought, though. They could be one of the more dangerous offenses Kirby Moore returns in Mizzou, so could definitely take them to another playing field. You got so many people returning from Mizzou, and I think here's the ultimate thing. Nobody in the country knows Marcus Carroll's name really right now, the running back that they got from Georgia State.
Yeah.
Or Georgia State. Georgia State. Get ready, because the kid had over 200 touches last year and ran for almost 1,500 yards. He is going to be one of the best backs in the SEC next year. I do agree with you there. Me and you are going to agree on one, so I'm going to save that one. I'm going to go to the Sunshine State. Where do you think I'm going?
Miami.
I'm going to go with Miami.
I wrote them down.
Stay with me here. I understand that Mario Cristobal has done some things when it comes to clock management that are not even head-scratching, but outright buffoonery. However, Joe, they keep recruiting their asses off, and at some point, all that talent that they're acquiring is going to pay off. I don't 1,000% know that from a defense and offensive line perspective that they might not be one of the deepest units, not only in the ACC, they might be one of the deepest units in the entire country. Now, how does it look like with Cam Ward? Okay, he's going to have to go off. But I just don't know if I'm not sold that Miami, because of all just the outright dudes that they have, that they might not be one of those teams that sneaks into the playoff. They go 10-2, and they make a little bit of a run because they're just so freaking talented in so many different positions.
Yeah, I almost feel weird classifying this as a Cinderella team because, like, I kind of look at it as a favorite to win the ACC, and if they win the ACC, they're going to have a bye, so they probably won't really be classified in this. But if there is a team that is new to the playoff field that goes on a run and that does really well, I completely agree with you. If I remove my concerns about in-game coaching decision-making with Mario Cristobal, and that is a huge, that's a huge thing that we need to eventually talk about when we do like a Miami preview later on. But my big thing here with them is Cam Ward comes in. He is an unbelievable talent. And then, as you specifically mentioned here, though, their offensive line and their defensive line is one of the deepest, most talented in the country. They are going to be the best offensive and defensive line units in the ACC in 2024. I'm sorry to say that, Florida State fans. I know that we've got a lot of them, but I'm going to put my stamp on that. Their 2023 recruiting classes, those guys are going to start to step on the field, are really talented. I think that Ruben Bain Jr., who exploded as a freshman, and then eventually we incorporate Jaden Wayne, who I don't believe really got much playing time. Those guys were in the same recruiting class. They both get on the field. They're going to tee off as pass rushers. And then Francis Malinois is a stud at tackle for them, who was a freshman this past year. Their roster is unbelievable. And I can't, as much as I don't really love Miami and Miami fans, I got to admit, I'm pivoting here. I really love it, and I think they could go on a playoff run if everything goes according to plan.
It's big for you because you're wearing a Catholic's shirt, okay? And there's somebody out there wearing a convict shirt. Some of you won't even get that reference, but obviously Catholics versus convicts.
Yeah.
Joe, I am a little bit weary of one thing for them that so many people are high on. That's Cam Ward.
He's very boomer bust. He's very boomer
bust. And people are like, oh, shit, Cam Ward's at Miami. Joe, we cover all of college football, not just the SEC, the Big Ten, Notre Dame. Joe, we were having serious conversations during the season last year that we kept saying Cam Ward is nothing but a turnover machine, right? Like, we were constantly having that conversation. My problem in all this is, if he's not, and he's just got better athletes and he's got better coaching around him, because I do think he's going to have better athletes around him, Joe, they might be something serious. The fans might actually have to get to the games a little bit earlier this time.
Yeah. Hopefully they actually pack the stadium. My last one, because Miami was my second one. This is one that it bothers me how much people shit on this. Like I think that a lot of college football fans and SEC fans are so used to the stigma of this program that they always like if you bring them up in making the playoff or maybe being like one of the top 4 teams in the conference, they laugh in your face. But look, Kentucky was a quality team this past year, and despite having a number of deficiencies and Devin Leary not being very consistent, they still won a respectable amount of games. I really like what they did in the portal, and I think that it's not getting propped up enough of them going and getting one of the most underrated receivers in Jamori Macklin, who is Jeremy Macklin's little brother or cousin, I believe. There's relation there.
Stupid at North Texas last year.
He was unbelievable. A guy that I've paid attention to as a draft prospect that if he declared could have gone somewhere on day 3. And then Jamon Dumas Johnson.
Day 3?
Yeah, somewhere on. He's a very talented receiver.
No,
very talented.
I made it to day 2.
I think it's a very talented receiver class, so it kind of would have been a little tricky for him to
Okay, fair enough.
Jamon Dumas Johnson didn't leave because he wasn't good enough to start at Georgia. It was just because a young guy stepped up and was a little bit better than him, and it was time for him to move on and go somewhere else. And then I love that Chip Trainum is going to be the next running back that they're going to rely on replacing Ray Davis. The big question mark is can Brock Vandergriff be their version of Will Levis, and can he be a steady pillar for them offensively, or is he, is there a reason why he couldn't get on the field at Georgia?
Here's the thing with me with Kentucky. I talked about them on Monday or Wednesday of last week on our SEC show. Joe, get this. I'm a sucker for old teams. Always have been, always will be. Get this. Now, this can obviously change when the spring portal window opens, okay? Did you know that they have 18 juniors and seniors on defense? 18.
That's insane.
They had 2 defensive tackles last year that had 5+ sacks. The problem with Kentucky last year was not them defensively. They would break sometimes because the offense in Devin Leary was so bad they couldn't move the ball. But they got Maxwell Harrison, the corner, who had 5 interceptions last year returning. They got De'Eric Jackson, the middle backer, who is going to be either the middle backer or the will that's going to be next to Dumas Johnson. Joe, he had 89 tackles last year, 2 picks, 2 picks and 2 sacks. But J.J. Weaver, okay, his 6th year, okay, at Kentucky, he had 7 sacks last year. 7.
It's a lot of production. It's a lot of production that's coming back.
By the way, the only thing that they got behind them are more seniors and juniors who have played a lot. Here's an interesting thing. I know when you say this, Kentucky, I don't know, Joe, if they can go and run because they have one of the more brutal schedules in the SEC this year. I don't know if they can get to 9 wins. Joe, I don't know if they can get to 10 wins.
Well, so that's the big if for me is that it could go horribly wrong, or not horribly wrong.
I don't even think 8-4 is horribly wrong, to be honest with you.
That's why I cut myself off there. They could get chewed up and spit out by their schedule, but still play really good and have 8 wins. But I think if they have the capability to be what Missouri was last year, to just burst onto the scene, get an unexpected win and win 9 games, and then be that 12th team that gets into the playoff.
Name an unexpected win Missouri had last year.
Expected win.
I'm going to tell you that
Kansas State was a little unexpected, and that's a really good. That's actually a very good. No, they kicked the crap out of Tennessee.
A 75 Tennessee.
They smoked. I think Tennessee had maybe I'm wrong, but they smoked them. They weren't expected to beat them that bad. They smoked them.
Choked them out. You're right. They choked them out, but that's arguably their best win. So. Good point. All I'm saying is, okay, I understand what you're saying. It's just I think that Kentucky's schedule is so brutal. Joe, I don't think that they can make it. I really just don't think that they can make it to a playoff. But you said that you considered somebody a sleeper. I can't believe I got to say this, but I got to do it.
Okay, do it.
Where do you think I'm going here? Try to read my mind very quickly.
Is it something that someone that you're reluctant to say? Is that kind of?
I'm very reluctant to say.
Is it Notre Dame?
No, but close.
Oh. Who is it?
Penn State.
We're doing this again. We're doing this again.
Joe, at some point, can I make an argument with you, Joe? If they're a 6 to 8 seed, they're going to play a 12. They're going to play a 10 or 11 seed. And at home in Happy Valley, I just don't know. But you're right, though. Okay. I am very reluctant to say them because I just don't trust James Franklin. I don't trust Drew Aller. I don't trust any of it. But the problem I have with this is, can Penn State at home beat Missouri? If last year was to play out the way that it played out, you're damn right Penn State could beat Missouri at home.
Yeah. Yeah.
You asked me who can win the game one.
Okay, here's my one issue.
Okay.
Penn State is the perfect team for the college football playoff.
The perfect team. That's why
in the sense that they're going to make it very consistently because they're never going to play in the Big Ten championship game. They never do. So they're never going to have to worry about like winning out their schedule. If they have 1 or 2 losses, they're going to be that one of those last teams that gets in because their schedule is going to be respectable enough because those 2 losses are probably going to be close games. But I can't trust James Franklin in big games, man. And if you know what, if he does win a big game in the regular season, I don't know if he can do it more than once in a season. He's just never, ever gotten them over the hump. We have been time and time over again. And I know that it's like cliche to do the whole, they can't win big games and they're not going to do so. But when we constantly are given evidence, we have to pay attention to that evidence.
The only evidence is, though, man, Joe, I mean, they're just not beating the prestige teams.
Those prestige teams everybody else are the teams that they're quality of teams that they're going to play in the playoffs.
No, they're just not beating the top 4 playoff teams. I mean, they're not beating Ohio State and Michigan. So in turn means they probably don't beat Oregon. Okay? But we'll just have to wait and see. Can I give you my honorable mention that you're going to absolutely loathe?
LSU?
No. No, I think they're getting it anyway. Well, here's the thing. The reason you can't put LSU in there because they're second behind Alabama in national titles over the last 20 years. They're not sneaking up and sleeping. Nobody's sneaking up and sleeping on them.
Good point.
I gotta tell you one, though, that you're going to absolutely loathe.
That's it.
USC.
No. There's no shot. There's absolutely no. If this was the Pac-12 still and that was still a thing, maybe we could have the convo.
I'm so out on Caleb Williams. Let me tell you what I did this weekend. Can I tell you what I did this weekend? I went and watched 67% of Caleb Williams' throws this year that were breaking up on PFF. Miller Moss. Here we go. Here comes you. I don't think USC offensively was as weak physically as people are giving them credit for. I honestly believe, here's what I honestly believe. I don't think enough people have watched legitimately USC offensive football and could sit here and say to me that their running game was weak. Their offensive line got serious push. Caleb Williams, quite honestly, isn't good enough in my opinion. There, I said it.
Forget that last statement that you had there.
Jaden Daniels.
Wait, stop it. Stop. The problem with that, though, is assuming that just Miller Moss is enough for them to fix, to overshadow some of their other issues.
Big Miller Moss fan here.
They don't have the bodies on defense to go play along the lines of scrimmage and to stop some of these teams running. They're not going to be able to. I don't know if they play Iowa. I'm just saying this. Iowa, Wisconsin are going to have easy times running on them because they don't have the bodies on their defensive line. They don't.
Okay. Miller Moss is better than Caleb Williams. You heard it here first. All right, you want to get to very quickly Fran Brown first year expectations?
Should we save that for tomorrow?
It's up to you.
Just blow through it so we can do like a full 10 minutes on it.
Yeah, that's fine. Tomorrow? We can do that.
Okay, let's save it.
Okay.
Let's save it.
All right. What do the Trojans do? What is that's the hook 'em. So what do they do?
Wow. It's the fight on thing. I think there's like a hand signal that you're
like.
Is it that? No, it's not. It might be that.
It might be this. It's not 2 in the pink, 1 in the stink, is it?
Okay. I'm looking it up.
Fight on. Fight on.
Yeah. Yeah, I think it's that.
All right. By the way, all I'm going to say about college basketball here right now, the fighting Larry Birds got hosed.
Yeah, I wanted to see that big kid with the glasses.
Kareem Abdul-Jabbar is what they call him. Kareem Abdul-Jabbar.
I wanted to see that kid so bad, man. That kid would have won. It's unbelievable that they got hosed.
Sucks so bad. All right. Yeah. We will see y'all again tomorrow. Be on the lookout for a time change. We got T-ball, Joe, starting this week.
We better get live updates.
Dude, I'm serious when I say this. I will send you my friends' numbers, okay, so they can verify this. Ben Ruffino absolutely rakes.
It's okay? T-ball.
No. He's not hitting on T. Dude,
he's getting the pitches. He's throwing them the pitches
to him. Okay. He's 4. Dude, like the other day, okay, I threw him like I just threw a slider and just see what he'd do. He pimped one on me. He smoked it. Okay, he hits a home run. Okay, and he pimps it. He's like,
hey man, I believe you. I mean, he's a massive 4-year-old, so I believe it.
Here for the fight, the UFC fight a couple weeks ago, he forces them. What he makes me do. He forces them for like an hour and a half to throw them BP. Forces them. Okay,
I believe it, man. I believe it.
So, T-ball, man. Got love. All right, we'll see y'all tomorrow, man. Peace.